A snotty-nosed Cheng Dale claimed that he had soaked himself in the river for 3 days before developing a cold. He had already been sick, and his life hadn't been easy, to which Zhu Shenji responded with the remark that he had been really sick. Zhu Shenji helped him to hold on with him, which Cheng Dale instructed to bring him to Huang Sanyuan later, for he had to give him an order. Zhu Shenji asked what had to be done that only Butler Huang could do, to which Cheng Dale replied that he wanted him to go to Black Rock City, meet with Zhu Banquan, and tell him that they had wanted to work with him. Fast forward, Huang Sanyuan was escorted by Zhao Zilong to bypass the army and take a shortcut, faster than the Yuzhu army, and got to Black Rock City. After traveling a long way, they managed to sneak into Black Rock City. Butler Huang told General Liu that he had had an important request to see the city Lord Zhu and that it was a matter of life and death. They went inside, and General Liu called his adoptive father, informing him that someone from the Toad village had come. City Lord Zhu Banquan was seated while writing. Butler Huang marveled at what an extraordinary person he was, thinking that even under the pressure of the advancing army, he had been able to read and write so calmly. He then extended his fist wrapped in greeting and told City Lord Zhu that he had risked his life to come to him on the village master's order to discuss an important matter that could have resulted in death. But he was interrupted by Zhu Banquan and questioned about the cooperation when he was about to surrender. In fact, he had been writing the surrender letter right then, admitting that he had been a guilty minister and would kneel down 100 times. Butler Huang was floored and asked City Lord Zhu how his soul would have been able to take it. City Lord Zhu coughed as he replied that he could have managed to hang in there. He was shocked when he realized that Butler Huang had come to side with him against the Lord of Yuzhu. He added that if he captured him and offered him to the Lord of Yuzhu, perhaps he would have been spared, which left Butler Huang speechless. Butler Huang sat down with him and inquired when City Lord Zhu had become like that. He used to be aggressive. No matter what bad things happened, he handled everything with plans and strategies. He added that the way he looked that day had been a little scary. City Lord Zhu sighed when he told him that although this matter should remain secret, he couldn't live comfortably there for much longer. He would discuss this with him in detail. At the time, before he had gotten rid of Han Huju, he realized through espionage that Yang Longting had joined the same army with Han Huju in his youth. They had led the remnants of the army and fought a bloody battle with the rings and later became famous. But with that alone, he could not become the Lord of Yuzhu, and his wealth still depended on his wife, Qiuishi. His wife Qiuishi had belonged to a powerful family in the capital, which had a lot of power and influence. Han Huju seemed to have offended the Qiui family at the time. In order to have a good relationship with the Qiui family, Yang Longting resolutely broke friendship with him. Yang Longting even took away Han Huju's credit at the awards ceremony in the capital because he had been manipulated by the Qiui family. After being recognized by the Qiui family, Yang Longting was appointed Lord of Yuzhu, while Han Huju was only the Lord of Black Rock City. The incident caused a complete rift between the two, and they never got back together for the next 30 years. But the problem was that the relationship between them had not been broken at all. Zhu Banquan had misjudged the brotherhood between them. He had not thought that his power could be so great, which had led to the current situation. Moments later, Butler Huang told him that he was afraid the king of Yuzhu might not accept his surrender. City Lord Zhu replied that he knew the planning was in the hands of the people after all. As long as their safety was guaranteed, they would force him to write a surrender. Maybe the king of Yuzhu would let him go too. Butler Huang responded that he had time to write a surrender letter and why didn't he use their motivation to deter him. City Lord Zhu pondered how and with what he would deter him. He had his own people serving in the army and as officials, and he simply needed to send a message to have many powerful families report to him. He could do nothing more than wait for the army to invade so that he could open the gate to surrender. He went on to say that he had planned to take Black Rock City as his foundation, and although he might not end up being a powerful lord in the future, he had become completely exhausted from ruling Black Rock City, and his ambition was also gone. Butler Huang replied that his village master had asked him to bring a message to the city lord, which made him wonder what Cheng Dale had said. People would have died if they had gotten their heads down, but they might have lived if they had fought back. City Lord Zhu repeated what had been said, to get their heads down and fight back, and responded to Butler Huang, asking him to talk more about it. A soldier in a carriage informed General Luo that the Toad village was ahead, which he questioned if he needed to remind him of it. Seated on top of sacks, General Luo said his adoptive father didn't want to train him. Why wouldn't he be with the grain carriers and have to deal with this group of mountain bandits? To which the soldier controlling the horse replied that the Toad village had recently been recruited and was therefore considered their allies. General Luo questioned whether they truly stuck into other people's affairs and were also expected to treat them equally. questioning what the big deal was. The soldier advised General Luo that he could not say that later. When they arrived at Toad Village, the military strategist said they could not pick a fight with them now. Suddenly, the soldier received a swift kick to the head. General Luo questioned whether they took the military strategist's words seriously when he was a piece of shit in his eyes. He might as well think of a way to destroy Toad Village to eliminate a major problem for his adoptive father. Then perhaps he would be able to rejoin him. Meanwhile, Cheng Dale was informed that it was time for him to take his medication. While Liu Zhai handed him a bowl of his medication, he was lying on his bed coughing and telling her it was bad luck to say anything like that. Suddenly, Zhu Shenji stormed into the room and informed his village master that the grain transporters from Yuzhou had run into trouble with some of their people. In response to Cheng Dale's request for help, Liu Zhai objected since her village master was still ill. Cheng Dale criticized how anything could go wrong during this procedure and gave the order to take him there immediately and bring his sword. A few moments later, someone threw a jar to the ground and moaned that the wine was worse than horse poop. It was General Luo who complained about how they were treated and demanded that he get out. A bandit explained to him that the village master was not feeling well, to which General Luo did not care if he was alive or dead, and insisted for him to get Cheng Dale out. Cheng Dale, with Liu Zhai, appeared behind and asked if he was General Luo and what it was about his staff that bothered him. General Luo acknowledged Cheng Dale and realized that he was actually a sickly bastard. He then explained to him that he needed to realize that he was a mountain bandit, and that his adoptive father had made him what he was. If he did not understand how to appreciate his adoptive father's favor, he could promote and discard him at any time, to which Cheng Dale responded that he was well aware of this fact. General Luo reached for a jar of wine and questioned whether it was something his people could drink or whether this was the only thing his village could serve him. Cheng Dale slightly bowed his head, then laughed and said that he would be coming back with another great wine to entertain General Luo. General Luo responded that he wanted to drink this jar of wine, to which Cheng Dale politely denied because he was suffering from a cold and could not drink wine. General Luo poured the wine on Cheng Dale's head and reminded him to remember this well. Not showing respect to him was like not showing respect to the Lord of Yuzhou. This shocked Liu Zhai. General Luo kept saying that he wanted him to drink all the wine in this jug until there was not a drop left. The bandits were surprised to see their village master had to go through this. General Luo, who wanted him to get angry, mockingly responded to the entire jar of wine that Cheng Dale did not want to drink, which was spilled on the floor, thinking that if he lost control, he could go to his adoptive father to gather up troops and destroy him. Even though he was dripping wet, Cheng Dale maintained his composure. Liu Zhai offered to drink it for her village master. General Luo grinned as he reached for his sword, wondering where this little nanny came from. He continued drawing his sword swiftly while questioning what she was that she deserved to drink it. He then swung his sword in Lai Zhu's direction, shocking her. General Luo's sword was suddenly blocked by another sword, which caused a metallic clattering sound and successfully moved it further away. It was Cheng Dale who blocked his attack. Cheng Dale furiously stared at him. After General Luo told Cheng Dale that he needed to control his dog and not let her bark because his fast sword did not recognize the dog owner, General Luo grinned and thought in his mind that Cheng Dale was finally angry. If he had known this earlier, he would have killed the little girl long ago to make him even angrier. In response, Cheng Dale said he would discipline his people, but what about him? He called him a little dog who didn't have someone to control him. General Luo reached for his inside pocket and replied that he was holding a sword, laughing, and daring him to hold a sword in front of him. He then threw some copper plates and added that he also had a fast sword that could cut through copper plates with one swing. Suddenly, General Luo rapidly split the copper plates in half and then told him that if he could do the same with the copper plates, the matter would be settled for today. Cheng Dale responded that his sword was not for cutting copper plates, to which General Luo sarcastically asked what else he used it for and guessed it was for cutting radishes. Cheng Dale replied that it was for killing people. He then abruptly approached him, slicing his sword numerous times in a short period of time, and unexpectedly stopped behind him. General Luo froze in awe. After stating that there was such a swift sword in the world, blood began to trickle from him as he progressively lost his footing. Screaming for their General Luo, the grain transport soldiers were startled. Even the bandits were taken aback, and Cheng Dale asked them what they were looking forward to before informing everyone that it was time to get to work. As the grain-carrying soldiers fled, their boots clattered loudly. Outside the Toad village, however, they were pursued by bandits with weapons. The grain carrier soldiers of Yuzhou pleaded with General Cheng to talk, as they did not want to fight him. He responded by telling them to put down their weapons, take off their leather armor, leave the grain carts there, and they could go. The soldiers were shocked and terrified, thinking that if the Lord of Yuju discovered that their grain carriage had vanished, he would have them behead them. Cheng Dale told them they should take Luo Tai's body with them. He then fiercely said to send a message to the Lord of Yuju that Luo Tai was beheaded by Cheng for not obeying the law. Yang Longting's army fought its way to Black Rock City and set up camp 10 miles from the city. The soldiers were divided into 4 groups to prevent the people of Black Rock City from escaping by surrounding them. His grain carrier soldiers arrived at the army camp of Yuju and bowed down while addressing their Lord of Yuju. Yang Longting was given the blood-stained corpse of General Luo, who had been slain by Cheng Dale after complaining about the wine's quality. The soldier then told him to deliver a message that Luo Tai had been beheaded by Cheng for not obeying the law. Yang Longting responded to the loss of grain transport. He immediately ordered them to be executed by cutting their heads off. Then Yang Longting composed a letter and gave the order to have it delivered to Toad Village. He angrily thought of Cheng Dale. It was written on the letter, asking him if he was not afraid of death. Cheng Dale chuckled when he read the letter. He grabbed his ink brush and wrote, "If you want to fight, then come and fight." Angrily, the paper was slapped upon the table. After reading the return letter, Yang Longting yelled Cheng Dale's name furiously. Inside a war room, Yang Longting told everyone to listen and asked who wanted to lead 5,000 soldiers with him to destroy Toad Village. The general responded to His Majesty, saying he would leave this matter to him and was confident that he would definitely fulfill this mission. However, his military strategist voiced that he would not suggest this. Now the army had just set up camp, and if they returned now to attack Cheng Dale, Zhu Banquan might take this opportunity to attack them from behind. He went on to say that they would find themselves in a situation where their backs were against the wall, which would be a big military mistake. Besides, he still had their grain routes in his hand. If he cut them off, their 50,000 strong army would be in a desperate situation. His general respectfully chimed in, suggesting to His Majesty that they should first leave this bandit alone, and when they successfully besieged Black Rock City, they could get rid of this bandit on the way back. Yang Longting was told to calm down while he was left speechless. He clenched his fist, crumpling the letter, and instructed to call the servants. Meanwhile, at the Toad Village, it was daytime when Cheng Dale was informed that another letter had arrived from the Lord of Yuju. Liu Zhai inquired of her village master what the King of Yuju had said. Cheng Dale sat with the letter in both his hands and responded that it said he knew Cheng Dale had killed Luo Tai and praised him for a good and fantastic job. The grains were provided for them, and it would be better if he could come to them for the siege. Cheng Dale smiled when he thought that Yang Longting was really adaptable to circumstances. He was worthy of being the Lord of Yuju. He then instructed Liu Zhai to have the pen and paper ready as they would be getting ready to kiss his ass. Alongside Cheng Dale, Liu Zhai sat down and began to pen the words that praised the light that shines in the north, the backbone of the empire, His Majesty the Lord of Yuju, whom he would always revere. Moments later at the army camp of Yuju, after receiving his letter, he had everyone in the hut read it together. All of them were convinced of his wisdom, and many of them wiped the tears from their faces because they felt this letter was glorious. Inside the letter, Cheng Dale expressed his desire to serve alongside the king, but he was too ill to leave his bed, so he could only pray for him in his heart and wished him success. He signed off as your faithful little fellow, the eternal admirer of the King of Yuju, from the Trap Battalion of Kin New Mountain in Yuju. His Ranger General Cheng Dale. Yang Longting thought in his mind that this bandit and his flattering words, behaviors, and the letters he wrote to Yuju City were similar to all the other scoundrels in the city who were good at kissing asses and being opportunistic. Everyone, including him, thought this little bandit was a joke. He genuinely underestimated Cheng Dale, thinking perhaps he was someone who was more worth as a target than Zhu Banquan. He used his tableside candlelight to burn the letter, and he didn't care too much about it at this point because his first priority was invading the city after first appeasing the small bandit. It was nighttime at the city mansion of Black Rock City. City Lord Zhu Banquan, alongside his armed soldiers and captured citizens on their knees, told them that the so-called siege of the city seemed to be still absent. However, Yang Longting's army surrounded Black Rock City. He kept talking to everyone. Yang Longting was not a man of his word. He was going to kill them all, but do not be afraid, for he would protect them all. A captured citizen questioned his protection when he captured them all right now and advised the city lord Zhu to give up and surrender early. Maybe there would still be a chance for him to get out alive. The captured citizen replied that only he would not survive when the Lord of Yuju broke through the city. City Lord Zhu sat in front of them and questioned what else he was fantasizing about. given that everything had been sealed from the outside, and it was obvious they did not even have a chance to escape. They advised him to release them as soon as possible and could also assist him in pleading for mercy. But Zhu Banquan questioned his goodness because he was aware that the man had made a bargain for his own children and that he intended to sell him in exchange for the position of city lord. He felt safe and brave and went to the Hongmen banquet. City Lord Zhu added that he did a little work when he invited them over for dinner. He sent someone to hide an envelope there and sarcastically assured them not to worry about the letter. It was hidden quite well, so it was not easy to find. The fake envelopes had been clearly arranged for them, and a few years before, he found out that the king of Yuzhu had some secrets that were not known. City Lord Zhu grinned when he kept saying, it included how he became the Lord of Yuzhu and where he was wounded during the war, which prevented him from having children. And it was all written clearly in the letter. The captured citizens were shocked and terrified when City Lord Zhu kept teasing them if they thought that he would tell them everything before he would be beheaded. In the future, they would all live in the mansion of the city lord. When they should stay alive, they stayed alive together, and when they should die, they died together. City Lord Zhu added. Fast forward, it was daytime when someone claimed that these opportunists, willing to trade their loyalty in exchange for fame and fortune of their entire family, had been dealt with, along with the procrastinators. Butler Huang asked City Lord Zhu how long they could hold the city this time, to which he replied that they should rely on themselves for as long as they could because there was no turning back. City Lord Zhu continued to say that the Black Rock City only had 5,000 soldiers, adding that if they were to be marginalized, then all 100,000 residents would be treated as soldiers. If Yang Longting couldn't bear the loss of his troops and retreated, he would be able to make a name for himself. If he couldn't bear it, it was just a death and nothing more. He asked Butler Huang how the preparations were going on their side. Butler Huang replied that it was pretty successful, and the people were withdrawn but worried if his village master's plan could work. City Lord Zhu responded it should work if he put his heart into it. In a certain place, a few men were chatting about how Yang Longting was not a good person. They said he was horny as hell, that all the women in his family, including a child, his older or younger sister, and aunts were not spared, and that he was one hell of a perverted person. Yang Longting also grew up with an excessive lust for sex which he couldn't restrain as an adult and watched his wife sleep with other men to satisfy himself. Many individuals were discussing Yang Longting. Rumors were spreading. It eventually spread throughout the Black Rock City and reached the barracks outside the city. Soldiers from Yuzhu were whispering. Yang Longting continued to sit inside his hut. He was furious when he thought of Zhu Si, which was City Lord Zhu Banquan's nickname. A red flag was waving while chanting to attack the city. His soldiers blew their horns. At dawn, Yang Longting began to attack the city. The Yuzhu army advanced towards the Black Rock City, raising their red flags while screaming to kill them. With the intention of killing, they made their way to the wall, and then climbed up ladders. A Black Rock City soldier yelled that they needed to defend this area, and prevent others from climbing there and killing them. Soldiers occasionally fell down the ladder as they screamed. The Black Rock City remained unfazed, while at the Yuzhu camp at night, where its soldiers were currently being treated. Inside the hut, Yang Longting discussed with his military strategist that the previous day's attack was just a feint, as the defense of four walls would always have a weak side. He instructed his military strategist that he would lead the 1st Regiment with 10,000 soldiers to surround the East Gate, and Kai Delong would lead the 2nd Regiment of soldiers to surround the West Gate. Kai Deking would lead the 3rd Regiment of 10,000 soldiers to surround the North Gate, while Yang Longting went on to say that he would lead the main force with 20,000 soldiers to attack the South Gate since Zhu Si was a bit capable. The Black Rock City was built like an iron barrel, and it was hard to use the secret spies he had planted there. The Lord of Yuzhu was informed by a soldier that a letter had arrived from the Qin Niu mountain side. It caught the attention of Yang Longting, while the military strategist felt annoyed and wondered what Cheng Dalei was up to again. A day ago, on the mountain path of Qin Niu Mountain, inside the carriage, Xiao Yi asked Miss Su Ying. Despite the famine being just over, the Huli fish business was just starting up again. Yet she wondered why Cheng Dalei now wanted the entire Su family to move to Toad Village. Miss Su Ying explained that Yuzhu City and Black Rock City were fighting each other, and in a year of military chaos, staying alive was more important than anything else, and it was hard to be a wealthy family member in peace. Xiao Yi doubted that the little Toad village could support hundreds of members of the Su family. Their carriages kept moving when Xiao Yi was in awe and asked what this place was and instructed her to look at it. Miss Su was left speechless. As they passed through the high-walled stone gate, she wondered when the Toad village had become so big. Meanwhile, it was nighttime on the official road of Qin Niu Mountain. The grain carrier soldiers were instructed to freeze. The mountain bandits screamed that this mountain path had been made by them and that they had also planted the trees. The grain carrier soldiers were startled when the bandits demanded that they leave their money if they wanted to pass. Cheng Dale, with his axe resting on his shoulder, warned them that otherwise they would have their teeth knocked out and be buried alive without being killed. The soldier innocently laughed at him, continued to address him as General Cheng, and inquired whether or not he was joking because he hadn't done this in a while, and wanted to have fun, which he thought was quite amusing. Cheng Dale explained that he was robbing them right now and wondered if they understood. The soldier was confused because Cheng Dale cheekily responded that he had quit after he had already submitted to the Lord of Yuzhou. Cheng Dale smiled and agreed when the soldier asked if he had simply decided on the spot. With delight, Cheng Dale assured them that he wouldn't treat them harshly, and that the Toad Village's rule called for 20% of the grain. The soldier asked him if he wasn't afraid of dying and expressed outrage at how he dared to apply this rule to the Lord of Yuzhou. Cheng Dale leaned closer and stared at him, referred to him as a friend, and promised to be honest with him. He was only going to take 20% of the grain from him, then pretend nothing had happened. He reminded the grain carrier soldier that he should know that the people who had not brought the grain last time had been beheaded by the Lord of Yuzhou and questioned whether he wanted to bang his head against the king's sword. Then he threatened the soldier, asking if he would prefer to run into his axe, leaving the soldier speechless. The grain carrier soldier gave in 20% of the grains and left. Cheng Dale waved goodbye as he stood behind and reminded them not to forget to deliver the letter to the Lord of Yuzhou. A few moments later, a letter was opened with the words "I quit" written on it. It was Yang Longting who was furious after reading it while tightly holding the letter. He was enraged. He ripped the letter and ordered Kai Dalong to take command of 10,000 soldiers and bring him Cheng Dale's head in 3 days. Kai Dalong replied with his fist clenched, indicating that he understood. The next day he led the 10,000 soldiers and went directly to the Flying Tiger Village. Cheng Dale constantly met with Kai Dalong in the Flying Tiger Village and actually made Kai Dalong believe that the Flying Tiger Village had become the base camp of the Toad Village. His soldier informed him that all people here had run away, and they seemed to have retreated in an orderly manner and had taken everything with them because everything was empty. Kai Dalong thought in his mind that it would not be easy to run away, and instructed his troops to go after them because they must kill them all. The scouts who were sent ahead said that all the villages in the Kin New Mountain were empty and Kai Dalong wondered where they had gone. The army followed the traces to catch up with them and finally, all the traces pointed toward a valley. The 10,000 soldiers of Yuzhou army were stationed in front of the new Toad Village when they arrived. As his soldier questioned whether they would still attack the city even though they lacked siege equipment, Kai Dalong was astounded and wondered when there had become such a big city there with a wall that appeared to be harder to breach than the Black Rock City. Kai Dalong responded to give it a try.